Coming up on Network Africa today, Nigeria lays out steps it is taking in combating the deadly Mpox disease in the country. Zimbabwe's President Emmerson Mnangagwa assumes chairmanship of the Southern African Development Community in Harare. Plus, Malawi's main opposition party endorses former President Peter Mutharika as its flag bearer ahead of elections in 2025. Once again, welcome to the program and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Anne Mwawade. We begin with matters of health. Following the outbreak of the Mpox on the continent, the Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, Dr. Jide Idris, has been speaking on the situation in Nigeria. Dr. Idris said that many of the current cases are from the younger age group, though the disease cuts across all age groups. He also stated the signs and symptoms for people to look out for and the prevention tips. The Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says that there are more than 14,500 Mpox infections and over 450 deaths from Mpox between the start of 2024 and the end of July this year. Just last week, the World Health Organization declared the Mpox outbreaks in parts of Africa a public health emergency of international concern. Dr. Jide Idris was a guest on Channels Television's breakfast show, The Morning Brief.
So specifically for Mpox, it is one of those diseases called zoonotic diseases. And let me, by the way, diseases of animals, primarily animals that get in contact with human beings and infect human beings. If you come in contact with somebody, you know somebody who is ill, who has this disease, avoid contact. If you are caring for that person, ensure that you are gowned properly, you are protected, wearing protective clothing, gloves, and nose covers, etc. It presents in a very typical way. Start with fever, body chills, muscle aches. But typically you have this rash that resembles smallpox rash. The rash starts from the face, it spreads down to all of the body, to also the palms and soles of the body. When this rash starts with like pustules, they start exuding some fluid and becomes pus. And this is about the time they get infected. Unfortunately, many of these cases are found in the younger age groups. That's 0 to 10. But again, you have cases again cutting across all age groups from about 10 to 40, 50. We've been in contact with activated what we call Emergency Operations Center for Mpox. We appointed an incident manager. We've started moving around and we've talked to people at the Port Health Services. People coming now are mandated to fill these declaration forms where several questions are asked as to, related to this disease, especially from those countries where these diseases have occurred. So far in this country right now, we have 39 confirmed cases, and luckily for us, no deaths. We met with all the healthcare commissioners in all the states just to enlighten them again to ensure that they too establish their own emergency preparedness systems.
The first international conference of the Helicobacter and Microbiota Study Group is held in Cape Town, South Africa, bringing together global leaders and experts to discuss some advancements in healthcare. Delegates from countries including South Africa, Nigeria, Congo, Zambia, Cameroon, Germany, Italy, Korea, and Libya all participated in the event. The conference also explored the potential involvement of the United Nations in furthering these critical discussions. Our South Africa correspondent Innocent Samosa reports.
At the heart of the global fight against diseases related to Helicobacter and microbiota, experts and leaders convened at the first international conference of the Helicobacter and microbiota. A key moment of the conference was the handover of leadership. Dr. Stella Smith, the outgoing president of the African Helicobacter and Microbiota Study Group, shared her reflections on her tenure, highlighting both her achievements and the challenges she faced.
Yes, one of the success stories, I must say, that I was able to gather the right kind of people that I've been working with over the years. So when I was asked to get my members, I was able to pick the people that I've been working with over the years. So it was a continuum that actually helped in making the group a success. And we've been able to write up recommendation guidelines and reviews of articles in different areas of Helicobacter pylori research in Africa.
Leaders emphasize the importance of global cooperation and discussions, even touching on the role of the African Union.
Well, the African Union has a great role to play. Other unions that we know, like the European Union and all the others, are there for their people to make sure that the economy of the continent is improved, that the health of the members of the union is improved.
It is very important to understand who needs to be tested, to be treated, and where do we need to embark in screening campaigns, for instance, regions with a high risk for complications, in order to anticipate the complications by treating Helicobacter pylori.
Delegates from the attending nations expressed their support for the group's mission, underscoring the need for a united approach to tackling these complex health challenges.
We give the opportunity to African to organize this group. Our philosophy is not only to have income. We are very, very interesting to help the population.
Newly appointed president took the time, vowing to continue the work and expand the group's influence.
So I want to encourage us to work even more closely as collaborators, to come now with data for the continent. So in many ways, we've got a guideline that we've published, we've got another paper that we've published, and we've got one that is almost ready to be submitted. But I think we need to do more data together as a group. So that's the first thing that I really want to encourage. We've got webinars that we do every quarter or so, where we've invited experts from around the world to talk to us on H. pylori.
As the conference concluded, delegates told Channels Television News that the discussions and decisions made here could shape the future of global health strategies concerning Helicobacter and microbiota. From Cape Town, South Africa, Innocent Samosa, Channels Television News.
And away from health, Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa has officially assumed the chairmanship of the Southern African Development Community during the 44th Ordinary SADC Summit of Heads of State and Government, which was held in Harare. That summit, convened in the new Parliament building in the Mount Hampden area, focused on regional integration, industrialization, and fostering political and economic stability. Leaders from the 16-nation SADC gathered in Zimbabwe's capital to address regional issues, including pressing food security crisis. In his opening remarks, President Mnangagwa expressed Zimbabwe's honor in hosting the summit, emphasizing the importance of dialogue and diplomacy in resolving conflicts within the region. He also called for an end to the use of sanctions against developing countries and asked to respect the United Nations resolutions on the two-state solution in Palestine. Around 68 million people in southern Africa are suffering from an El Nino-induced drought that has devastated crops and caused widespread food shortages. And that was announced by the Southern African Development Community Executive Secretary, Elias Magosi, who stated that this number represents 17% of the region's population who now require aid. The drought, which began in early 2024, has severely impacted agriculture and regional economies. Despite a $5.5 billion appeal for humanitarian assistance, donations have fallen short. The drought, alongside the conflict in eastern Congo, were a key focus of that summit. Well, let's get more on this. Joining us now is Nigel Iyambutu, Zimbabwean journalist, for more from Harare. Thank you, Nigel, for joining us on Network Africa.
Sure, it's a pleasure being here.
What more can you tell us about this summit that held over the weekend and more topics of discuss by the leaders that attended?
Yes, well, the routine annual gathering of Southern African leaders did take place in Harare over this past weekend. Topping the discussions, as you already highlighted, the El Nino drought, which really is putting the region under immense pressure. Number one, to ensure that poverty is alleviated. Number two.
All right, I guess we'll get back to Nigel and Nyamutumbu for more on what the outcome of that summit is. Well, let's turn our attention to Malawi. All right, Nigel, are you back? Let's continue with this discussion.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, so go ahead, please.
Yes, so I was saying, yes, the El Nino drought, the political situation in the region, particularly the situation in Mozambique, the situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the eastern parts where indeed there are conflicts. In Mozambique, there's a question of dealing with terror. There are upcoming elections in the region. The past that were held in Zimbabwe, in South Africa, and so forth. But we also have Botswana coming up. So all that we're subject of discussion, with the idea really being peace in the region, the idea being having cohesion in the region, and also ensuring that there is enhanced regional integration on the economic front, particularly insofar as industrialization is concerned. But suffice to say, the SADC region has come under real criticism of it being a talk show, and it being a egos, and do.
Thank you very much, Nigel Nyamutumbu. Unfortunately, we'll have to end the conversation because I guess the network won't allow us here the exact outcome of that meeting and what we hope the implementations of the outcome will be. But thank you very much, Zimbabwean journalist Nigel Nyamutumbu, for your time on Network Africa. Let's head to Malawi now, where ahead of the 2025 presidential elections, Malawi's main opposition, the Democratic Congress Party, the Progress Party, has now endorsed former President Peter Mutharika as its candidate. The 84-year-old led the country from the year 2014 through to 2020. It pledges to fix the economy, which has struggled with slow growth and currency shortages. He will face incumbent President Lazarus Chakwera, who is seeking a second term. Mr. Mutharika also plans to ally with the United Transformation Movement, though the party is yet to confirm this partnership. In 2020, Mr. Mutharika lost his re-election bid to Mr. Lazarus Chakwera at Anti-Corruption Crusader. And the election was a repeat vote after the country's top court quashed the results of May 2019 exercise, which gave Mutharika and his Democratic Progressive Party victory. The Sudanese authorities say they will open the Andria border crossing from Chad into Sudan as a war-torn country faces famine and acute hunger in many regions, with many roads impassable owing to heavy rains. UN aid agencies welcomed this news, saying the vital humanitarian corridor will allow the UN World Food Programme, the WFP, to scale up assistance to 14 areas facing famine in Darfur, Kordofan, Khartoum, and the Gezira regions. In total, WFP aims to support up to 8.4 million people by the end of this year. Sudan's war, which erupted 16 months ago between rival militaries, the Sudanese Armed Forces, the RSF, have ravaged food production, destroying essential markets and cutting off communities from assistance.
Across the country, WFP is scaling up assistance to 14 areas either in famine or at risk of famine, largely located in Darfur, Kordofan, Khartoum, and Jazeera, with the aim to support up to 8.4 million people by the end of the year. The opening of this critical humanitarian corridor through Adre will enable us to deliver aid into Sudan's conflict-rattled Darfur region, where famine was confirmed just 2 weeks ago in Zamzam IDP camp near Al Fasher, North Darfur's capital. As we speak, 2 convoys with nearly 6,000 metric tons of food and nutrition supplies for around 500,000 people are being loaded, destined for risk of famine areas in North, Central, and West Darfur states, as soon as official government communication and clearances are received.
In the conflict hotspots, 70 to 80% of the hospitals are non-functional. So people are dying simply from a lack of access to basic and essential healthcare and medication. We are seeing reports of cholera, measles, malaria, dengue, meningitis from several states.
Still to come on Network Africa, producing portable eyes in Egypt using eco-friendly equipment. We'll give you details of this after the break. Please join us again. Welcome back. Kenya's Workers' Aviation Union has postponed for 2 weeks a strike that was scheduled to start tomorrow. The union, which represents airport workers, says that this is to allow for talks with government over a proposed deal to develop the country's main airport. While it believes this agreement with India's Andani Airport for holding to upgrade Nairobi's Jomo Kenyatta International Airport will lead to job losses and bring in non-Kenyan workers. That facility is a major African hub, and industrial action will cause significant disruption to regional air traffic and national carrier Kenya Airways. The government has denied union claims that the airport is for sale and says that it had not yet decided whether to go ahead with what it describes as a public-private partnership. It says that Jomo Kenyatta is stretched beyond its capacity of 7.5 million passengers a year and is in urgent need for improvement. Kenya's airports authority said the investment proposal includes a second runway and upgrades to passenger terminal. Libya's central bank has announced the suspension of all its operations after a senior employee was kidnapped in the capital, Tripoli. On Sunday, the information technology director, Musab Salim, was taken from his home by an unidentified party. The bank has announced the abduction, saying that other employees have been threatened with kidnapping. The central bank also says that operations will not resume until Mr. Salim is released. The central bank, which is independent but owned by the Libyan state, is the only internationally recognized depository for Libyan oil revenues, which is a vital economic income for the country, torn for years between 2 rival governments in Tripoli and Benghazi. The UN Security Council has unanimously adopted a draft resolution extending the authorization of African Union member states to deploy uniformed personnel into the country. The personnel is expected to carry out the AU transition mission in Somalia, which is mandated with the task until December the 31st. Speaking after the vote, Somali Ambassador Boubacar Dahir Osman says that Somalia recognizes the necessity of extending ATMIS resolution, especially as the country works towards a successful transition to the new peacekeeping framework.
We recognize the necessity of extending ATMIS resolution until December 2024 to ensure a smooth transition as we prepare for the post-ATMIS security arrangement in 2025. It's imperative to commit to the required support enabling Somali National Forces and ATMIS to continue its vital work. This collaborative effort is crucial as we work towards successful transition to the new peacekeeping framework. Unfortunately, we have witnessed delays in nearly all phases of the drawdowns. Therefore, coordination between TCC countries and UN contractors is paramount in this process. Effective collaborations not only facilitate the safe and orderly withdrawal of peacekeeping forces, but also minimize the potential disruptions that could arise during this critical phase.
And to other stories now, Ivorian farmers are turning. Before that, the UN Security Council has unanimously adopted a resolution extending the authorities, but Ivorian farmers are now turning to a new rice variety for increased yields and profit. This variegation includes a better irrigation, better mechanization, and of course, improved short-cycle drought-resistant seeds.
Ivorian rice farmer Francois Kaseyao has struggled to make ends meet with only one harvest per year before he planted a new variety resistant to unpredictable weather conditions, capable of producing larger yields. The grain, introduced as part of a program designed to increase outputs of the regional staple food and cut dependence on imports, allows rice growers to get 2 harvests per year, with a yield of up to 5 metric tons per hectare.
Today, the yield is better with this new variety. Before, we had other varieties and we couldn't get by. But since we started with the new variety, we're doing just fine. We can get 4 or 5 tons per hectare. I can truly say that rice nourishes us today.
This shift signals a potential boost for local farmers and the nation as a whole, which could reduce its reliance on foreign rice imports. Before the introduction of the new program that includes better irrigation, mechanization, and improved short-cycle drought-resistant seeds, farmers struggled to produce 1 metric ton per hectare in some areas.
Comme cette variété permet de faire 2 cycles dans l'année.
We won't be talking about climate change. It's as if the weather has remained unchanged. When you plant it, whatever the weather, it adapts. It's good. It adapts to all climates.
Ivorian production of local white rice currently stands at 1.4 million metric tons, far below the national consumption of 2.1 million. But the Agency for the Development of Rice Sector, ADEPI, says the latest investment of 330 billion CFA francs, that's about $551.38 million, made by the state, its partners and the private sector will enable the country to be self-sufficient in 3 years.
In our projections for 2027, 3 years from now, we should be producing around 2.2 million tons of rice. But all this will depend on figures gathered by the National Statistics Institute, which will give us the level of consumption habits and the different varieties we consume. Based on these details, we will be able to make a good projection.
Suspendu au résultat de l'Institut national de statistique.
To fully cover domestic demand, Côte d'Ivoire imports rice mainly from countries such as India, Thailand, and Pakistan. A decision by India to curb its imports last year has raised shortage concerns in several African countries.
A factory in Egypt is producing ice, but not in a conventional way. Using new eco-friendly technology, the facility is reducing thermal emissions, lowering the carbon footprint, and of course, minimizing water waste.
A factory in Egypt is producing ice in an environmentally friendly way, thanks to its new technology, which, according to the founder and owner, is reducing thermal emissions, lowering the carbon footprint, and minimizing water waste. According to Mustafa Al-Ashri of Al-Ashri Factory, the facility is the first in the world to use ice ashray technology.
We are pleased to establish this factory in Egypt as our first venture into the production of food-grade ice, and we are pleased to spread this technology worldwide. The whole world can benefit from this technology, especially as we face global challenges with thermal emissions and energy conservation. This factory meets the difficult balance of saving both energy and water while introducing a new product to the market, with a freezing temperature reaching -60°C, providing extremely high cooling power. This is particularly beneficial for food-related uses around the world.
The factory's patented technology is producing this ice that is being used by different industries, including those of food, pharmaceuticals, and hospitals. The ice is produced by temperatures reaching minus 60 degrees Celsius using materials designed to produce food-grade ice that is free of viruses. It's different from regular ice.
Regular ice has several manufacturing issues. Firstly, the water is not treated. Secondly, it is made in galvanized iron molds, which can transfer rust to fish and food products. Additionally, this is known as slow ice, meaning it is slow in production, allowing fungal and viral activity to persist or spread, causing significant damage to the food product it is in contact with. Our factory's concept involves using molds that treat water from the beginning, ensuring it is 100% healthy. We use stainless steel molds and achieve very rapid cooling by producing the ice at minus 60 degrees Celsius. This quick freezing process prevents any viruses or bacteria from becoming active during the freezing process. Furthermore, its cooling capacity is 10 times greater than our regular ice molds.
Established in 1988, the factory aims to continue innovating and spreading their ideas globally.
A great idea indeed. But that's where we draw the cuttings on this edition of Network Africa. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawadu.